You only need four things from the CVS Health section. That's Ace bandages, adhesive wrap, gauze, bleed stop powder. The rest can be found in your home.
So you've been shot. Alright, if it's squirting blood, you need a tourniquet, because an artery has likely been damaged. In here, I have a very basic medical kit. So, what a tourniquet does is it cuts off blood flow to an extremity like an arm or a leg to stop or slow down any further blood loss. So what I have right here is a regular ACE bandage and a Sharpie marker. Tourniquets all have something called a windlass, which is what you use to turn the wrapping to apply more pressure. In a classroom or a home environment, the best windlasses are sturdy writing implements like markers, but pens and pencils can work as well. However, they're flimsier and they're more likely to bend or break. So, wrap your ACE bandage around the wound about 1 to 3 inches above. So, that's about 1 inch from what I can tell. You're going to want to wrap it as tight as you can. Two. And 3. So, then what you do, you place your windlass in, then you're going to wrap it over 2 times more if you can, and just tuck the rest in. Then you're going to turn your windlass, and you're going to feel very, very uncomfortable squeezing. And what you have to do is brace it in place with this other pen. And turn this as many times as you can until the squirting blood stops. And now that it's braced, just keep the person steady. Ideally, this will be left on by first responders and then removed in a hospital by a surgeon. Paramedics will likely use a real tourniquet and put it above this tourniquet just to make sure no more blood loss happens. So the tourniquet can be used anywhere. You can even do it one-handed. So let's just say I've been hit somewhere in the arm, say there. All right, so this arm shouldn't be moving. You get your ACE bandage. Things off. Now, arm wounds wouldn't be quite as bad as, say, hitting a femoral artery in your thigh, but, you know, I don't think any bullet wound is good for you. Just, I don't really speak from experience. I just don't think it's healthy. So, same process, just wrap it as tight as you can. Now, ideally this is actually a little higher, because you don't really want to be putting a tourniquet right over a bullet wound. Alright, so that's quite tight. Now, put it in your mouth. I'm holding it. Right there. And keep wrapping. So ideally, you would not be doing this to yourself. Hopefully someone would do it for you, because as you can see here, it's kind of a struggle. It can be done. It's just not ideal at all. So yeah, get your second. So you only want to wrap it. You only want to wrap it twice over the actual windlass, otherwise you're going to have too much trouble twisting. So, 1, 2, oh geez, that pinches. Retain it, and something like that. So, practice, especially with this, you probably don't necessarily need to practice stuffing a wound because these things are sterile. But with the ace bandage, you can definitely practice on your own, and I would, because this, what I've done here is actually not tight enough, so I'm actually going to do it again. That's okay, because we're just practicing here, but in a real life situation, that would have probably not been too good. So like I said, realistically, you would be doing this for someone else, or someone else would be doing it for you, because doing this by yourself without a proper cat tourniquet is god-awful. All right, take 2. Okay. I think that did it. Retain it. Bam. So also, you don't want to shake this around too much, simply because it's just held by friction here, and that could slide out. Now we're going to go over what if a wound is too high for a tourniquet. Well, what do I mean by too high? What I mean by too high is, see how this is low, and say wounds could be all down my leg, and a tourniquet would still help. But what if a wound is up here in my hip? I can't really wrap a tourniquet around that. So, for pretending's sake, let's just say that this wound is too high up. What I have to do is first expose the area, which is why I should have scissors. I think safety scissors are pretty good. There are dedicated trauma shears you can get, but you know, these work. Just cut right through. So when you have it exposed, then what you have to do is take some gauze. Gauze comes in many forms. You can get it compressed, but the way CVS is selling it, they have rolls. And all you're going to do, pardon lack of a bullet hole in my leg, is you're just going to take it, and you're going to stuff it, and you're just going to keep stuffing it in. And keeping pressure on the wound. So what this is for, bullets don't simply poke holes in and out. They go in, they dump a bunch of energy, and they can tumble around, fragment, and basically cause a bunch of different channels and wound cavities. But essentially, it's not just one hole in and out. And so what you have to do is pack that empty space to help slow the bleeding. And so you gotta keep real pressure on this wound. Bleed stop powder is also helpful, but the problem with this is, you know, sometimes maybe a cavity's too big, but hemostatic agents are obviously great at stopping blood loss because they clot the area around it. Old school ones would heat up, so they weren't as good, but nowadays they have slightly better powders. But since it doesn't necessarily fill in the cavity, as you're just like packing it over, that's why you still need gauze. So what they also make is things like combat gauze, which is basically a mixture of compressed gauze and hemostatic powder that you stuff in. Once you've stuffed the cavity, then you then take your self-adhesive bandage and pull it over as tight as you can. And this will help keep pressure on. Keep in mind, self-adhesive bandage cannot be used as a tourniquet like ace bandage, simply because it's too sticky, and also it kind of has a tendency to rip if you try to, say, jam in a windlass and turn it. So don't use this as a tourniquet. If anything, cloth strips, but stretchy cloth like the ace bandage work great as a makeshift tourniquet. So it's always better, if you can, to expose the wound, but with a tourniquet you don't necessarily have to, which is why it's good, because you can just put it over clothing. And a couple of things to keep in mind: if there are multiple wounds throughout, or you can't tell where the blood is coming from, just put it as high and as tight as you can on the leg. Just remember that, high and tight, because that will cut off blood flow to the whole leg. So rather than, you know, finding exactly where it is and wrapping it, you can just wrap it up high and not really have to worry if you're being accurate or not. $30 would include the gauze roll, the bleed stop powder, around another $20 for an ace bandage, which is very worth it. Ace bandages are great. The adhesive tape is very cheap, and then household items, like I said. The things you could also add, because this is great for extremities, but not as good for torso wounds, is for around $10 online, you can get these hyphen vent chest seals, which have a front and a back, or it's basically 2 stickers that go over chest wounds. You're supposed to put one in the front, one in the back, one for an exit, and one for the entry. And basically what that does is it kind of slows the blood flow. It lets air move out but not in, because it's called a sucking chest wound when your lung is punctured. And that's a whole different thing. But basically all you have to know is that you just put this over the bullet wound. And so all of that for probably a total of, I'd say, under $60 can save your life. The use case for budget medical equipment is simply the price. Many people don't want to spend $60 just for 2 cap tourniquets, and then God knows what else is in here. You got the quick clot gauze, multiple packs of compressed gauze, hyphen vent chest seal, splint. People don't want to spend that kind of money. So for the price of just these 2 tourniquets, you can get a little kit that can do the job of most things, just not as well, and you're definitely not going to want to be doing this on yourself. I mean, you could probably do it on your own leg, but keep in mind, you're also going to be in extreme pain, likely. Could be in shock, so you won't know what you're doing. And that's why it's better to have someone else that can do it, or you do it to someone else, simply because it'll be more effective. But in any case, all of this is far better than nothing. In most cases, you want more tourniquets than you have limbs, like minimum of 4. But if I could just get you to invest in a single tourniquet and the contents of this medical kit, you'd be better off than most people. For me, you can't put a price on life-saving equipment, but the price of this is probably $50. So medical equipment is great, but according to a Kaiser orthopedic surgeon who dealt with gunshot wounds, most wounds to the chest and stomach, essentially just the torso, prove to be fatal. So it's important to protect that, as well as your head, of course. So here I have kind of a school backpack thing. I don't have any textbooks on hand, so this book of World War II is kind of standing in. Got some books, binder. Fun fact, I don't have it in here right now, but a real laptop does absolutely nothing. It's made of thin, cheap metal, and things will go straight through. So what I have back here is a level 3A backer. This one was cut out of an actual body armor vest and sold on eBay for $50. So they're pretty affordable, and they stop pistol rounds up to, if it's rated 3A, it should stop up to a 44 Magnum. So essentially all handgun threats will be stopped by this. But if $50 is too much, or maybe you, I don't know, don't want armor for some reason, another thing you could do is just take ceramic floor tiles. I have some left over from when we got these floors, but you can go in and get samples like this. This is $5 for a square foot. So for $5 you can get this. You just put it in front of your books. Ideally you would also cover it with tape or something, so it would keep its shape and also give it a bit of a drop protection, because these do break, and after, you can find videos of them being shot on YouTube, and after like one shot they shatter, but the tape helps them stay together, so maybe they can withstand a little bit more. But essentially the ceramic is harder than most metal used in bullets, and so it'll shatter it. Although the ceramic will shatter in the process, it will shatter the bullet. And then the paper behind it will catch the rest of it. Or if you use this in conjunction with the actual cutout of a body armor vest, or they make dedicated backpack panels that will cover like the entire bag. If you use that in conjunction with it, it can even stop rifle rounds. So that's just an important little addition, because medical equipment can only help you so much. At some point you might need a shield.